that. Hey everyone, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. I'm Chris Halleck. DK is on his way back from New York. Well, really, New York, Madison Square Garden. The Penguins won 3-0. But because he's not here, I'm actually not just filling in for DK. I'm filling in his chair today here in our downtown HQ in downtown Pittsburgh. Thank you guys for your patience. We're getting a little bit of a late start today. But appreciate your patience. The Steelers did practice today on the south side. I was there for the entire thing from this morning when the locker room first opened, and then throughout practice, and then in the locker room after practice as well. A bit of news on the injury front. Let me get that pulled up for you really quick. Jalen Ramsey, Calvin Austin did not practice today. That's obviously not good news. The good news, Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Warren did both fully participate in practice. Alex Highsmith was a limited participant in practice. So that is the news. We'll get into more of that, what it might mean. But before we kind of unravel and begin to kind of have a back and forth, since you guys are going to be co-hosts today, I did want to hit on one kind of important thing, because I hit on this subject, I think, in yesterday's show, and I wanted to dive more into it, and I did. And if you have our app, which you should get, by the way, but if you have our app, you might have already read this. And so I urge you to go read the whole thing, so that you fully understand it, because I'm not going to read it for you. I'm going to want you to download the app and go read it. The Steelers are part of a trend here. They're not following the trend. They are leading the charge on this. It is no, and Chris B71 says, please say your dive is Roman. No, it's not Roman Wilson. It has nothing to do with the receivers. If anything, it has to do with lesser receivers. Listen, the Steelers obviously like to use tight ends. We know that. We've seen that with Pat Freiermuth, with Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward. They have 4 tight ends at their disposal that they can use at any given moment. And it's not an accident. It's not something that they're doing that's also in defiance of the rest of the league. The league is trending in this direction. The league is trending toward more tight ends. I had a conversation with Patrick Queen about it today. I wanted to get the defense's perspective on this, and he said, it doesn't make it easy on us. I think it's worth crediting the team, because I think we've spent a good amount of time on this show and everywhere else to kind of take our shots at Mike Tomlin or Terrell Austin or even Arthur Smith. I think I've even said with Arthur Smith's offense that there are parts of it that are outdated, and so I think we also need to acknowledge when they're doing things that are with the trend, where they are, I want to say, ahead of the trend, but they are helping lead a charge on it. 12 personnel, 13 personnel are both way up. I won't say way up, but they're both higher this year, higher rate of usage throughout the league this year than they were last year and the year before. It is continually growing, where we're seeing more 2 tight ends, more 3 tight ends. One team in particular, the Colts, have been one of the more surprising teams in the league. They've looked really, really good. They're using 13 personnel at the highest rate in the league at 13.2%. And that is a huge increase from 3.4% last year. 12 personnel, I can't think of a team other than the Rams who used more 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers on the field at the same time. 2 years ago, they were at 95% in 11 personnel. That's ridiculous. That's an insane number. And this year, they're down to 78%. because their 12 personnel has increased from 5% 2 years ago to 20% this year. So even the teams that like to operate out of 11 personnel more than anything else, they're still starting to use a lot more tight ends. And the biggest reason for that is, well, because defenses have started playing primarily out of the nickel. The Bills and the Eagles are both they're both right among the league leaders and have been among the league leaders in how much they use. They're pretty much, their base defense is with 5 defensive backs. So one way that you can do that, one way offenses are doing that, is they are attacking defenses by just being bigger and stronger. That's the best way to do it, really. You can try to fight fire with fire, and you can get 3 really good receivers. But not everybody has Puka Nacua. Sean McVay has Puka Nacua at his disposal, where you can literally trot 3 receivers on the field, and you can have Puka Nacua go block a linebacker, and he's just as effective as a tight end blocking a linebacker because he's a freak. So I don't want to say pat the Steelers on the back for this, but I think it's worth recognizing that this team, this offense, is doing something that is along the lines of the way the league is trending. This is not Arthur Smith being stuck in the 70s. This is not Mike Tomlin being stuck trying to play old school football. This is the direction of the NFL. It is bigger personnel groupings. It is running the football. It is controlling the clock. Yeah, defenses are not only smaller, they're also shelling everything. They're also running with these 2 high looks all the time. That's why you're seeing the Steelers throw short and control the ball that way. Why take shots? Why put the ball at risk? I also, Mr. CJ Jr. said, I have Puka on my team. I have Puka on my team too. And I really enjoy having Puka Nacua on my fantasy team. But I just really wanted to kind of highlight that. But again, there's a lot more numbers, a lot more detail. If you go read on the app, it's right there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll put you guys in the co-host chair right next to me. I do not have the Starbucks today, so if you guys want to bring me one, I'm right here in downtown. So, but we'll get into that right after we take a really quick break. Right after this.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Guys, welcome back to Double Shot of Steelers, and the football season is fully in swing. It's October. It's like the best time of the year. Hockey season just started. Football season's underway. Basketball season is about to get underway. It really is. I know some people say March is. October is my favorite time of the year because we got playoff baseball. Hockey season just got started. Football season's in full swing. It's my favorite time of the year. It's also the perfect time to go download the FanDuel Sportsbook so you can get in on all the action, all the latest odds, futures, and win totals for all these sports, including football. So if you think the Steelers are in a prime position to win the AFC North because of where the Ravens are at 1-4, the Browns at 1-4, the Bengals desperate to trade for Joe Flacco at 2-3, just completely burying Jake Browning. If you don't think any of those teams are going to threaten the Steelers in the AFC North, well, you better place your bet today then. Whatever your game, the FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, features, and specials so you can join in on all the action. Okay, let's put you guys in the co-host chair. Any reaction that you guys might have to multiple tight ends, anything else today? One thing that I did want to hit on was obviously the matchup against the Browns. The AFC North is, AFC North schedule is starting for the Steelers. They've got 2 of these matchups right here in a row. Got the Browns on Sunday and then immediately turn around to go to Cincinnati 4 days later. Not looking forward to the Skyline Chili at halftime there, but I digress. Chris, have any little birdies chirped about potential trades that could happen with the Steelers now being favored to win the North? Well, one thing I can tell you is that Omar Khan is never going to He's never going to make a move based on what other people are doing, what other teams are doing, and nor should he. That's how bad decisions are made. If you start to look elsewhere to be the motivation to make decisions, you're going to lose your job fast, because you will make more poor decisions than good decisions. Omar Khan is, I think he is shown very, very, like, throughout everything that he's done, all the aggressive moves that he's made, I don't think he's shown any hesitance to not make these big moves, to not make a big move. I mean, he traded for Jalen Ramsey in the offseason. He brought in Jonnu Smith. I mean, we have seen him make some big time trades, and I don't think that he's going to shy away from that if he feels like the Steelers need a receiver or any other position. He's going to get it done. Now, I also don't think that he's going to make a move just to make a move. I think some people are just continue to scream WR2 because the move hasn't been made. Well, we've kind of seen what happens whenever he just makes a move to make a move. We saw that last year. He got Mike Williams at the trade deadline. Didn't pan out. And some things you don't know, you can't know ahead of time. He didn't pan out because I don't think his heart or head was fully in it. He's not even playing in the league anymore. He retired. So I don't think that I know for sure that he does not. No, and Chris Dolnack says something about the moving train. It's not a moving train at all. That's not the reason why Mike Williams didn't get acclimated. Mike Williams isn't even playing in the NFL right now. That's a big thing. That tells me a lot. The fact that they just did not have the trust for him to be out there. Yeah. I think that was probably the issue. Randy asks, if we go big bodies like we did against the Vikings, do we think Garrett will have a Darnell problem like he used to have a Moore problem? Well, I do like the fact that you brought up Myles Garrett and the big bodies, because Broderick Jones spoke after practice today, and of course was asked about facing Myles Garrett, and here's what he had to say about facing a pretty good football player, whether you guys like it or not. He gave his flowers to Myles Garrett.
Just try and keep a lid on him. I guess that's the right way to say it. So that's the game plan, and hopefully we can stick to it and execute.
Broderick, what's the key for you to do?
The key for me?
Yeah.
Like I said, just coming in with the right mindset. I feel like that's 90% of the battle. Just not getting in your own head before it's time, and just going out there and playing your game.
One thing that I don't think was played on that was he called him a freak in nature. He does everything, and that's exactly what Myles Garrett does. He's a great football player. Yes, I do think they're going to have a plan for Myles Garrett, and I don't think it's going to be just one-on-one with Broderick Jones all day. I do think they're going to have to have other plans, but there's a number of things you can do. Yes, you can stick Darnell Washington next to Broderick Jones. You can stick Spencer Anderson out there and use the jumbo packages the same way you did against the Vikings. You can also just call a lot of plays in which Aaron Rodgers gets rid of the ball in less than 2 seconds. That's Myles Garrett's not getting back. You can leave him one-on-one with Broderick Jones if Rodgers is getting rid of the ball that quick, because he's not getting back there that quickly. He's just not. Then it asks Chris, do you think instead of getting a WR2 Smith, we'll use Jonnu Smith and Pat as that option? I think the first thing they want to find out about WR2 regarding the receiver position is they want to see what they have in Roman Wilson. It would not surprise me if the guy who ends up getting the majority of the snaps in Calvin Austin instead, assuming Calvin Austin doesn't play, and him not practicing today is not a great start to the week. But I would assume that Roman would be the first guy to be in line for that. Now, I don't think that means he's going to be taking all of Calvin's snaps. I do think Scotty is going to be part of that solution as well. But I think they need to see what they have in Roman. Before Omar wants to make any kind of move in which they're like, okay, if the Raiders are going to fall, let's try to go get Jacoby Myers. Or if the Saints are going to put a for sale sign up, and see possibly if they're willing to part ways with Chris Olave and try to get some pretty good draft compensation back, whatever it is. They need to find out what they have in Roman Wilson. And I'm not saying that as somebody who's trying to be an advocate for Roman. That's not my job. My job is to report on the team. But I also understand that this team invested a 3rd-round pick in the guy. They need to find out what they have in him. That's what you should be doing. So we'll see what happens. But you need to have a receiver. It can't just be the tight ends. You look at some of the stuff that Calvin Austin does, what he does well, that speed is a weapon. Tight ends can't be used. They're not used for their speed. You have to have guys who can open things up with their speed, whether that be for themselves, taking the top off the defense, or for opening things up for other people. Joe says Traylon Burks, former Titans 1st-round pick, is clear to play football and got released by the Titans. Even with the tight ends, would the Steelers be interested in him? I don't want to be talking for an hour about WR2 guys. I understand this is a big topic. I understand this is something that everybody gets all up in arms about. But I don't think. Listen, we're writing off Roman Wilson before he really even gets a chance. He didn't get a chance last year because he was injured. He dealt with multiple injuries and never got in a place where he was physically ready, mentally ready. He wasn't there. They need to find out what they have in this guy. Before they go and make a rash decision to go get a Jacoby Myers or a Traylon Burks or anybody else, sure, you can add a guy maybe like Traylon Burks who can come in and sign him to the practice squad, see if he's still got it, whatever. And they've kind of done that already. No, not a player of Burks' level, but they brought in the guy who was with the Giants, who had a pretty good stretch, a couple of games that he looked really good, but he's on the practice squad for a reason. Anybody that you're going to add right now, unless it's a huge marquee trade, it's not going to be anybody of significance. You would much rather, listen, if you can get that guy just by developing Roman Wilson, that is always the best option other than having to spend more draft capital to go get another guy. Dwight says the Brownies may go run heavy to protect Gabriel. Will the Steelers go big on D to counter? The Steelers are going to have to go big on defense to counter anyway. The Browns are using, in doing my research on the multiple tight ends, the Browns are actually leading the league in 12 personnel usage at 50%. That means half the time they have one running back and 2 tight ends on the field. I didn't even look at their 13 personnel. Yeah, they're using multiple tight ends quite a bit, so that means you're probably going to see the base 3-4 quite a bit in this game from the Steelers. And yeah, they're going to want to run the ball. Quinshon Judkins has become a part of what they're doing. They're not going to ask Dylan Gabriel to throw the ball 40 times a game. You're going to have to play some bully ball on defense. You're going to have to go get after him. So yeah, I absolutely think you're going to see bigger defense this week. WVU Chad asks, does this team understand that this is a game that Cleveland circles on their calendar? Absolutely. Absolutely. If there's any week to try to put this under this is a Tomlin trap game, this is not one of those weeks, man. You guys don't see Mike Tomlin on these AFC North weeks. This dude walks around the locker room every day after practice, and he does it he does it on a different level for whenever the Steelers are playing the Ravens, but he does this when they're playing the Browns or the Bengals too. Usually it's once a week. Mike Tomlin will come in the locker room after practice, and coaches don't often do this. The locker room is the player's space. Coaches they try to keep that separate a little bit. Mike Tomlin usually once a week, he'll do his rounds. He'll walk around the locker room and he'll either cut it up with one guy. He'll make fun of the media, being in there, and he'll say something like, "Hey, how about you guys go interview Christian Kuntz? He's a heck of a story. You guys need to go talk to him." But then he'll also go have a serious conversation, even if it's for only 30 seconds, with another player, or he'll check on another player and how he's doing. He does this every single day after practice during AFC North weeks. If you guys got to see what I see every week, every time they're playing an AFC North team, you would never have this notion that Mike Tomlin doesn't have his team ready for AFC North games. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not a narrative. Plus, Mike Tomlin is 14-4, I think it is, after a bye week as head coach of the Steelers. 14-4. It might even be better than that because he's going into his 19th year. So yeah, so he's coached 18 games after a bye week and he's won 14 of them. So yeah, he does plenty well after the bye. Let's see what you guys got here. William asks, with Cleveland being so run heavy, could we see Peppers and Elliott on the field together? I think that's another way you could do it. Absolutely. I don't think there's one way you can do it. I think you can run a big nickel. That's another way that you can defend two tight ends. I don't think it's just defending the run. I also think it's defending, David Njoku and Harold Fannin, the two tight ends that they have. You'd most likely rather have a safety on those guys than have a linebacker, even though Peyton Wilson is a pretty good coverage linebacker. Patrick Queen can be a pretty good coverage linebacker. I really think that another way you can do that is to have multiple safeties out there. You can have a 3 safety package, which would be your big nickel, instead of having a third linebacker or a second linebacker should say. Like off-ball linebacker, inside linebacker. Instead of having a second one of those, you put another safety on the field. Or instead of having 5 defensive backs, which is usually 3 corners and 2 safeties, you take one of the corners off and you go with a safety. I think there are a number of ways you can do this. Chris gives us a nice shout out, says that this insight is worth more than worth the cost of the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. Well, the app itself is free, so I really hope that our insight is worth more than free. But even for the premium subscription, which DK, when he gets back from New York, if you email him at dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, he will get you a discount that is absolutely worth it. So you don't have the ads. You can comment on all of our stories. You can read my story in the Steelers feed right now on this multiple tight end usage. And you can say literally you can comment saying I'm full of crap, whatever, you can do it all. No, I'm never full of crap. I always tell the truth. I'm always, yeah. Mr. CJ Jr. asked me a really, really hard-hitting question. Are the helmets in front of you? They actually are in front of me. They're right here. We were trying to get my phone to get set up as the camera, and it just didn't work. I was already running behind coming over from the south side, and we just wanted to get started. So I'm using the camera from my computer. So yes, they are in front of me, along with the bobbleheads. They're down here too. I don't want to touch them. They got a nice little setup and everything. Yeah. So
it's missing.
Yeah, the entire studio is here. Just looks a little bit different. Stokeworks Studios says they've struggled to beat Cleveland a lot lately. I think the last couple of seasons they've split. But I think, well, number one, it's AFC North. You always have any divisional matchup. You have to almost throw records out the window. And especially when you talk about the Browns, like one of you guys already mentioned it earlier. Listen, the Browns, if they go 2-15 every year, as long as those 2 wins are against the Steelers, that's all they care about. They just want to beat the Steelers. That's all they want to do. I mean, it's just the truth. And so, yeah, the Browns bring their absolute best whenever they play the Steelers. And so, yeah, I expect the Browns to play a heck of a football game on Sunday. I really do. I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be an easy win, and it would not surprise me in the slightest if the Steelers lost this game. The Browns have a great defense. They have a great defensive front, and for as much crap as we gave the Browns for their draft night, especially drafting multiple quarterbacks, they have had a number of rookies step up and play very, very well. Dylan Gabriel's come in. We'll have to see more of him before we can really make an early judgment on him. But Quinshaw Judkins has been good. A number of the rookies have been big contributors. They lose one of their best linebackers, who's currently on injured reserve right now, JOK. And Robert already trying to put the jinx on me. Say, way to put the hex on it, Chris, talking about the 14-4 after the bye. Listen, I if I had this kind of power to put a hex on or to have jinxes, I wouldn't have to have this job, because I would have somehow won the lottery or something along those lines, or I would have finally hit on that Darnell Washington anytime touchdown, or I would have put a lot of money on Ben Skoranek scoring the first touchdown of the season for the Steelers. I would have found a way to use my powers for my pocketbook. More than let's just get the Steelers to 3-2. DV says, I think we're much more focused on Cincy, or more likely to lose to Cincinnati. I actually don't think that at all. Yes, Joe Flacco is a better quarterback than Jake Browning, but the Bengals defense is just atrocious. Teams with a really great defense, like a really, really good defense, are harder to beat in these type of situations. Even if the offense isn't as great, if they can stop you from scoring, if they can really limit you on what you can do, sometimes those games turn into a bit of a wash, and then you're kind of relying on a lucky bounce of the ball, and you just might be unlucky that day. When you're facing a team think about it. Think about it from this perspective. There is no reason why the Steelers shouldn't have won a Super Bowl when they had the Killer Bees, right? When they had Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Well, what was the reason why those teams didn't win a Super Bowl? Because they didn't have a defense for about all but one of those seasons. And the one season they did have a defense, they lost their best defensive player to a career-ending injury. So you can have the greatest offense, but if you have a terrible defense, it does not matter. And plus, it's not like they have Joe Burrow back there. I mean, Joe Flacco is immobile, and he's playing behind a terrible offensive line. G Stacks 434 asks, hey, Chris, do you believe that we'll see the 3 outside linebacker package? I do. I also don't think it's going to be as featured as some people think. I think the best way, and this is assuming Alex Highsmith plays, I would assume that they would much rather use a rotation of those 3 rather than stick those 3 on the field. And I know you're going to hear that and think that means less snaps for Nick Herbig, and I don't like that. Well, would you rather Nick Herbig play maybe 7 to 8 less snaps so that he can stay healthy, so you can have him for the rest of the season, so you can have him when you're trying to win games down the stretch in December and January to win the division? Or would you rather him play 90% of the time and really risk putting him on the sideline or an injured reserve because you wore him down? It's the same thing with TJ Watt. You don't want TJ Watt playing 90% of the snaps. You want him playing about 80%. That means somebody else is going to have to be on the field. And it's really, really awesome if you can have Nick Herbig be that guy, because Nick Herbig has turned into a heck of a football player. And Kyler gets it. He says, I like having a rotation for all the edge rushers, and the Steelers do too. They want to be able to rotate because it keeps everybody fresh. It keeps your best players. Think about it. If TJ Watt is fresh for those critical third downs or for those critical plays late in the second quarter, late in the fourth quarter, that's the ideal situation. That's when TJ can really pin his ears back, especially if the defense can force the offense to be one-dimensional, or it's a one-dimensional. If it's a one-dimensional, like if it's a one-dimensional situation where it's a passing down, absolutely put TJ Watt on the field. That's when you want to put TJ. You want to put Nick Herbig. You want to put those guys. It's a rotation. Yes, but I do think that they are going to have some times in which all 3 of those guys are on the field. Little C says, hey, Chris, do you think we'll see more of Gainwell again this week, or do you think Warren takes the lead back? Warren, assuming Warren is fully healthy, like fully go, he's fully cleared, he's a full go. Yes, I think Warren will be the lead back, but I don't think they're going to try to run him to the ground either. And I think, you're finding out the reason why. I've been talking about this. Yes, Warren only missed 3 games in his career heading into this season, but he had played at less than 100% in several other games. Health has been a bit of a situation for him. Has been a bit of an issue for him, and so he's got to prove himself in that way. He's got to prove that he can stay healthy, and so to to circumvent that situation, you can have Gainwell take some touches away from you. You can even have Caleb Johnson come onto the field. I think that's another part of it. Randy asked, Chris, do you feel that Caleb Johnson is going to have a prominent impact at running back anytime this season? Prominent, probably not. I mean, unless injury forces Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith to give him more touches. I think ideally, especially with the way he started the season, they would prefer that Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell really share the load at running back. Excuse me, while Caleb Johnson really acts as that RB3, a guy who can come in maybe in a more obvious run situation, kind of like he did in when he was complimenting Gainwell last week, against the Vikings. I think that's more of what we'll see from Caleb Johnson. Denny saying Kenny or Gainwell and Caleb being new, it makes sense to get them more early season snaps, save Warren for a stretch run. I think it's just about, again, when you talk about rotation, when you talk about rotation at running back, edge rusher, defensive line, whatever it is, a lot of it is keeping guys healthy. The NFL season is long, and for Caleb Johnson especially, he's never gone through a 17 game season. The longest it goes in college, especially if you don't make the college football playoff, is 13 games. I mean, you got 12 regular season games. You have a bowl game if your team happens to be good enough to qualify for a bowl game. And then even if you make the playoffs, then you are finally getting to that stage where you're kind of flirting with the 16 games or whatever. But it's still not 17 games plus if you make the playoffs. Caleb Johnson's going to have trial by fire if there's an injury and forces him to play a little bit more. Justin says, I have a feeling Highsmith is going to significantly outsnap Herbig. I don't think so, especially not this week. I think with them, I think they're going to take it easy with Highsmith. If he's cleared to play, and I think he will end up playing, I still think that Highsmith is going to be what would normally be your third edge rusher in this game. Even if he technically starts, even if the Steelers introduce their defensive starters, and he's one of those two edge rushers that's announced at Acrisure Stadium. It just says, eventually. Okay, I get that. I'm actually not fully convinced of that. I do think the Steelers really know what they have with Nick Herbig. And it's a difficult situation for them to be in, because if you leave Alex Highsmith on the bench, that's a really good player that you gave a second contract to. That's leaving a really good player on the sideline. But sometimes you got to know what you have. And Nick Herbig has turned into a heck of a player. He really has. William says, with Cleveland relying on the run, does that play into Pittsburgh advantage because of the Gabriel height? I mean, I got this question, by the way. If you had our app, I'm going to do another plug here. I did live Qs yesterday, and I got this kind of similar question. Does Dylan Gabriel's height impact the Steelers' ability to bat balls down? Well, absolutely, because the Steelers doesn't matter if the quarterback is 6'5" or 5'10", they bat balls down at the line of scrimmage. So yes, they have an advantage when it comes to Gabriel's height. When it comes to stopping the run, and I mean they want to be able to do that. Gabriel has to find different ways to be good at quarterback. Any quarterback who's been shorter, who's found success, and there have not been many of them. They've had to find ways to be great because they don't have the ideal size. And Drew Brees obviously probably being the best of all of them. Russell Wilson being another one in his heyday. It requires something else that's pretty special. For Russell Wilson, it was his athleticism. His ability to create out of structure. He was really, really great at that stuff. Dylan Gabriel's going to have to find his superpower, which Mike Tomlin described as his processing. And so Steelers have to be prepared for that too. Evan says, could we see more of Peppers help stop the run? Yeah, I mean, we could, but if it means less Deshaun Elliott, why? It's hard to have both Deshaun Elliott and Peppers on the field at the same time. I think it's possible. Sure, you could have a big nickel setup like I was talking about earlier, but You don't want to take Deshaun Elliott off the field. That dude is too good. And he is, yeah. He's there. I cannot put to words how much that locker room loves Deshaun Elliott and the coaching staff too. He has really become a player. He is really becoming a player that I think is going to be like I think about some of those players that kind of fly under the radar and become like those fan favorites, like a Brett Kiesel type, didn't come in and was this high draft pick, but just because of just really good play and just, I think Deshaun Elliott can become that type of a player when we're talking about like how Steelers are remembered, and he loves playing here. That's the other part of it too. And it's not like he grew up here. He grew up in Cowboys country. He went to he grew up in the same town that I lived in for 15 years and the same town that I went to high school in North Texas. I mean, he came from Cowboys country, but he loves playing for this team, man. He really does. And they love having him. Chris Dolnack gives us a $5 contribution, which is always appreciated, and asks, Chris, what is your key to a Steelers win both sides of the ball? Well, on offense, I think more than anything, it's neutralizing Myles Garrett. You got to find a way to, I won't say neutralize, but limiting Myles Garrett. It's finding ways to get rid of the ball quick so that Aaron Rodgers, I don't think this is a game in which you're going to see the Steelers finally open it up. Now, there could be some opportunities for that to happen. I think more so than you might have seen against the Vikings, because the Vikings run a lot of too high, more than anybody else in the league. And the Browns are among league leaders in single high looks. But even Aaron Rodgers said it today after practice. He said that the Browns run a lot of single high, but then drop into a too high. So that's something to look for. But they got to find a way to get the ball out quick. They got to protect Aaron Rodgers. They got to run the ball. But I think more than anything else on the offensive side, they have to find a way to limit Myles Garrett, not let him wreck the game, and convert on third down. Absolutely convert on third down. They have to sustain drives better. On the defensive side, they got to stop the run. I know that sounds cliche, like, oh, of course, every defense wants to stop the run, but they really need to. You want to force Dylan Gabriel to beat you. You want to make Dylan Gabriel be the reason why the Browns win the game. And, there have been plenty of times in which the Steelers have done that and done that successfully. For example, when they faced Dorian Thompson-Robinson, now technically, yes, the Browns did win the game. They won, and Thompson-Robinson got that W, but it wasn't because of him. It was absolutely because it was because Matt Canada finally gave everybody a game in which Mike Tomlin even had to say, okay, I'm pulling the plug. Matt Canada's fired. That's the reason why they lost that game. So let's do one more here. Dwight Jefferson, kind of similar situation, asks, Chris, how should the Steelers attack the Browns defense? I would actually like to do something in which they almost throw behind Myles Garrett when he is rushing. Like, you kind of throw behind him. You like wherever, like if he's rushing from the offensive left side, well, you run a slant behind him. You make him completely, like, he's completely out of the play at that point. You do little things like that. They've got to find ways to run the ball. But I would like to see, I think it's going to be more quick game stuff. I think you're going to have to challenge receivers to get open. Because the Browns do run a good amount of man coverage. So some people are going to be like, man, you're talking the Browns up a little bit too much, man. Their defense is really, really good. Their defense is very, very good. You're going to have to find ways you're going to have to find a way to win this game settling for field goals. You're going to have to find a way to win this game by maybe only scoring 20 points. Maybe that's all it's going to have to take. And honestly, when you're facing a Browns offense that has a rookie quarterback and a rookie running back and, receiving group that's, pretty lacking. Even Jerry Jeudy's not been that great. The 20 points should get you a win. But I think it's going to require a quick game. And yeah, you got to run the ball. I'm going to keep hammering that home. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys taking the time. We'll be back to normal stuff tomorrow. At least I believe we are. I know DK will be back in town. I think he's going to cover the Penguins game tomorrow night, but that's at least just right down the street from here at PPG Paints Arena. So we should have a normal show tomorrow. But until then, we'll catch you guys on the Flippity Flip. We will see you later.